Hey guys, I want to just talk a little bit about how to think differently, right? This is something that's been on my mind a little bit. It's very important for us in order to get out of certain kind of loops and traps and hamster wheels in life. You've got to be able to know how to really think about a new reality and then kind of enter it. Because what happens is we get stuck in our own heads. It's very hard to change your belief about what is possible and what is going to be an improvement on how you normally do things. So what's a couple of ways that you can kind of work on getting your own mind to change? And not just that, but making sure that it's your mind. It's not like that you're changing your mind into a collective mind or a hive mind. That's not really the purpose here, because that's sort of easy, resonating with a bunch of what people tell you is the right way to do things, right? You kind of want to think differently than the hive mind, but you also want to be able to get out of your own head and think differently, for yourself. So in other words, the state of your mind basically determines the state of your life. And so if you wanted to shift the state of your life for whatever reason, right? You can accept the circumstances that you're in, and then you can say, you know what, I want to shift things a little bit. In order to do that, you actually have to change the state of your mind. So how do you do that? Now, if your mind alone was able to just change its state, it would, right? Because mind's genius at keeping its state consistent. That's kind of how it works. So what you need to do is you need to try new experiences. This is one thing, right? Try things that are outside of your own comfort zone. So what does that mean? That means there are certain things that you might want to do, but then there's this fear is holding you back, right? And fear is an interesting thing. It's actually a very useful thing for the universe. It keeps everything consistent. That's what fear does. It stops us from making the whole world chaotic. Unless you really wanting to make some change, then you're going to have to face that fear, actually apply energy and courage towards it in order to make that change that you want. So one way of looking at what you might want to be doing with the next stage of your life, or where you might want to shift, is to look at where the fear is, right? If the fear is something that you actually desire at the same time, but you're scared of going through that door, you're afraid that you might fail, you're afraid that there might be consequences to taking action and getting what you want or changing your life in that way, right? You should probably look at doing that thing. You should probably look at drumming up the courage. It may not be instant. You might have to chew it in your mind a little bit, but you see, you don't want to do that forever either. You want to kind of chew it in your mind enough to build up that courage and do it anyway. Because what that's going to do is that's exercising your courage, right? This is like a muscle. So your mind is going to make up all of these stories when you're going to try and change something. If you're wanting to think differently, do something differently, and get into a different life situation, your mind's going to make up stories for you, not and reasons, really good excuses. It's a genius at this, at making stories so that you don't do that thing, right? So what you got to do, what courage is really, is feeling it, feeling into the fear, letting it make up all these stories, letting it tell you what terrible things would happen if you try and go for that thing, or if you try and change your mind, right? And do it anyway. That's courage, right? If you don't feel fear, if you don't feel some apprehension towards it, when you think of something that you desire, right? And then your mind makes up excuses why you shouldn't do those things, and it tries to scare you, right? Well, then it's not courage, is it? Right? It means that you're going to be doing those things anyway in life, because fear is the thing. It's like the glue of the universe. It keeps everything on the rails, right? That's what it's there for. It's one of the greatest gifts of the universe, because it lets your world stay consistent, right? That's what fear does. It keeps everyone on the track. But if you want to switch the track, well, you're going to have to face it. And that's courage, right? That's what you need to drum up. to face that and make that change. Now, to get perspective in order to make that change, it's not going to come from your own mind. You're not going to sit there and navel gaze your way into a new perspective. What you actually need to do is go and get new experiences. Go and experience new things. When you experience new things, when you push yourself out of your comfort zone, right, then your mind has reference experiences, broadens itself, and is able to perhaps consider what that new reality might look like for you to step into it. So that is very important. You have to use external things. Now, external experiences can come like in the form of, say, books. That's an obvious one, right? Great novels, great even self-help books, philosophy. I mean, just anything really where someone has like made a creative enterprise of building this work, and then you read it, and then you're able to like share in some of the insights that may have taken them a lifetime to get, right? That's something which can give your mind some input, right? But nothing beats taking action. See, when you go and you do something, it's just so much more visceral. A book is in your mind. You can imagine the outcome. You can imagine things, like you can relate to the author and the story that they're telling. That's great. And that's some input that your brain isn't able to, say, generate for itself, right? So that's good. But if you actually want to like really think differently, learn to think differently, you have to get out of your comfort zone. That doesn't mean sitting down, reading a book, right? Nobody is uncomfortable sitting down and reading a book. It means get the fuck up out of your chair and go and actually take action towards the thing that you want to do, towards the change that you want to make. And you've got to commit to it. It can't be like, I'm going to try this a little bit. No, you've got to do, right? You've heard of the saying, it's do, don't try. Very important. Because when you commit, when you burn the ships, you've actually got the best chance. Really what you're doing is you're leaving things behind. You're leaving that last you behind, if you like, and you're moving into a new situation, right? There's no way back. That's how you do it. So people who think differently in the world, people who can stay a little away from that hive mind, right, can generate a new reality for themselves. They're very good at doing this. They're very good at bucking up that courage and then taking action rather than just navel gazing, rather than just reading books about it, right? So that's the other thing to do if you are wanting to change your mind and therefore you change your life situation. Now, why is it so hard to change our minds? So one of the reasons it's like really difficult to change your mind is because beliefs are, especially early beliefs, right, they're something that we base our worldview around. And you can think of them like a skyscraper. So early beliefs, kind of like, that's what we build later beliefs on top of. So if you challenge earlier beliefs that you've had after you've spent a lot of time, years, thinking, investment in building this kind of worldview, then what happens is we've got this defense against changing those beliefs. Because if you change those beliefs, be prepared for your entire world to crumble down. Any other belief that depends upon earlier beliefs is going to break. So that's why we've got this internal defense. We've got this aversion against changing our beliefs, right? And that's rightfully so. We will even not change beliefs in the face of extremely compelling evidence that what you believe is wrong. We'll not change that belief because we know that it's better to have a consistent worldview. It's better to be able to function in the world than go and change your belief and then have to rebuild your entire world, let alone relate to your friends and peers around you who might even hold those earlier beliefs, right? So that's something to be aware of. You've got to make a decision at some point. If you're really going to transform your life situation, you've got to be willing to you have to be willing to basically rebuild your worldview. And this is something that's it's one of those things that brings up that real primordial fear, because that's what fear does. It keeps people's worldview consistent. That's what it's there for. It stops things from changing. It's the glue of the universe, right? So, wonderful thing, fear. But if you really, really have the inspiration, if you have the intention and impetus and want to change something, like really want to change it because you just feel it compelled in you. You're not in a situation that you feel natural in. You know that you have to move. Well, just know that that's what that fear, coming against that fear, can be a signal to where that door is that you should walk through, right? And you've got to drum up that courage. That's the second thing. You've got to kind of also perhaps do a little reading, do a little talking, try and meet a new crowd of people who are closer to that new life situation you might like, right? Get into that vibe. It's very important. Read some books about people who've done similar things, right? And then drum up the courage, and you've got to start immediately. If it's something you want to do, you don't put it off until tomorrow, because tomorrow you'll put it off tomorrow, and tomorrow you'll put it off tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes. If you're wanting to make a change and really, get into a different life situation, start to move towards that. And by the way, it's not guaranteed that you'll make it first time. Actually, the challenge is that you're probably going to make a lot of mistakes. You're probably going to have to train and repeat and practice and get through all of that, terrible, harrowing, all sorts of, nightmarish things. You're going to have to deal with friends around you from your old, let's say your existing life, that don't want to see you change. You're going to irritate them, right? They could be angry, they could be challenging you, they could be thinking things like, well, Draco, you're not the same guy we used to know. You've changed, right? And you're like, yes, I want to change, okay? So you've got to be ready for it. You're going to be like, yeah, motherfucker, I'm changing. And that's just the way it is. And then if that happens and they can't accept it, you've got to pick a new set of friends who actually accept you for the person that you really are meant to be. Your natural self. The person and the situation that you felt compelled to be in. That's the set of friends you want. People who can accept you in that situation and with those new beliefs. So anyways, try that. Hope that's a bit of insight. I believe in you. So give that all a bit of a think and then get out and do something about it.